6:12 is the time. Good morning. Scotland is home to 138 whiskey distilleries, which attracted a record number of tourists right before the pandemic, almost 2.2 million. Wendy Gillette just returned from Scotland, joining us live this morning from the CBS Broadcast Center in New York with more on how women are drinking whiskey. Wendy, I am on this trend. I love whiskey. How fun for you to go over there.
Yeah, Heather, it was a very tough assignment, but someone had to do it visiting distilleries in Scotland. Scotch whiskey is big business, shipping to 180 markets around the world. It's made with just 3 ingredients, water, yeast, and grain. But by law, it can only be made in Scotland.
Thank you.
Kim Mabus traveled from Philadelphia to the GLENLIVET distillery in northeast Scotland to buy a few bottles she can only get here.
Pretty big Scotch fan. I have a nice collection at home.
These days, she's enjoying it with a more diverse group.
So many friends of mine have started drinking whiskey, female friends. It's crazy.
A 2020 study from the market research company MRI Simmons shows more than a third of whiskey drinkers are now women. At Ardbeg Distillery on the Scottish island of Islay, visitor center manager Jackie Thompson estimates the percentage of women guests drinking whiskey has quadrupled since she entered the business 25 years ago. And she's observed a difference in how women and men approach Scotch.
I see with women often, they have a great appreciation of sticking their noses into whiskey in order to enjoy the flavour of whiskey. Men maybe tend to go straight for the palate, whereas women go for the scent and the aroma of a whiskey to appreciate it.
Women aren't just drinking whiskey, they're making it. The Scotch Whisky Association estimates 40% of this country's 11,000 industry employees are female, and they're breaking the glass ceiling in what used to be a male-dominated field.
Kelsey McKechnie was the youngest woman named an apprentice malt master for Balvenie Distillery at the age of 24.
If you look back in time, women just weren't in these roles, and now they are.
She sees a future with more women calling the shots in an industry that just keeps getting bigger. The Scotch Whisky Association says every second, 44 bottles of Scotland's national drink are exported, with 4 of those bottles headed for the U.S.
The Distilled Spirits Council of the U.S. says the growth of super premium Scotch brands is driving sales here up 200% since 2003. Heather.
Boy, Wendy, that is really just incredible to see, and what a fun trip for you to take and kind of learn so much. I do have to ask, because you've been on some really great trips recently, kind of traveling around. You know, travel's been a mess for a lot of folks, at least domestically. What was your experience heading over there?
Well, like many travelers in Europe this summer, there were issues with baggage. The delay arriving in Edinburgh was about an hour and 15 minutes to get bags. That's due to staffing shortages. Leaving Scotland, baggage delays caused a delay of a couple hours, and that led to missing a connection in Washington. But at least we got our bags, which is better than other travelers have fared, Heather.
Wow, no kidding. And I guess overall you get to go to a beautiful country, meet wonderful people, and drink whiskey, so what's there to complain about? Right? Good assignment. Wendy, thank you so much for that. We appreciate your time this morning. Fun to see how things have changed for that business. Take care.
Sure.
We've got some more fun facts about Scotch whiskey as well, which is really kind of neat. I know Wendy kind of ran through a lot of it there in her story, but in order for it to be considered Scotch, it has to be made in Scotland. It must be made from malted barley with no fermentation additives. It's got to be aged at least 3 years in oak barrels. And one more thing, it has to have alcohol content less than 94.8%.
Wow.
That's intense.
Wait a minute.
Not from the footage I've seen.
Don't light a match.
Holy moly.
Burn the hair off your head.
Right? Watch your eyebrows. Yeah.
That'll take you straight.
But
man.
I appreciate that. I'm a whiskey drinker, and so it's nice to see that the business kind of change over, because I think we did always think it was a gentleman's drink.
Sure.
So
you gotta broaden your horizons, your palate.
Yes.
I never knew a malt master. I didn't know that was the name for them. A malt master.
I kind of like that title.